Welcome back. It's Lach and Raph here. And as always, guys, we're on a mission to dramatically improve the health and fitness of Australia's business executives and leaders, which is why today we're going to be talking about a very, very emerging industry. Well, actually, it's established at this point, and it's continuing to grow, and that is wearables.
Yeah, wearables are enormous. I think, obviously we had, computers came first, mobile devices came second. Honestly, it seems like wearables have come third in terms of like the devices that are here to stay.
Yeah.
Right? Because I even think, obviously they bring out the goggles and all this different new stuff, whatever they bring out now. A lot of it is going to do what wearables do.
Yeah.
Right? Continue with this. So this is not going away. I know some people like to, we got fit before wearables. Like, yeah, we got fit before wearables, but they're still awesome.
Yeah.
Right? And they're actually really, really helpful for executives and to help get in shape. 3 reasons why we love them. First being the data. So the data is fantastic and is particularly good for long-term reflection. So like, find it quite easy to be like, hey, we tried this new thing. How's your sleep, yesterday or today compared to yesterday, or like this week compared to last week. Maybe even go like, how's your sleep now compared to like last month. But being like, how was your sleep now compared to like March 2023? No one can honestly do that, right? It's just like it's something you only can really do with data. A good example was in the summer, I was like, I'll do some extra running during summer, like think about how much I should run in my program. I was like, obviously, no, I don't want to run too much. And then I realized, I'm like, if I go into my Garmin, I can see exactly how many kilometers I've done every week and every month for the whole last 12 months. And then okay, cool. Like I'll just pick, like my top month and then I'll build up from that. Super useful, right? So it's actually having the data there, even if you don't even know it's being tracked, is awesome. Mm-hmm. Second one is for a lot of people, data can be really motivating. So you're always looking for different ways to find a win in fitness, right? Because sometimes, not always winning every day. You're not always setting a record every single day. But when you track a few different things, it is very motivating. Good example is we'll have clients all the time. We'll like get them in shape and then they'll be tracking their sleep. And they're like, dude, I just realized like my resting heart rate with you guys has come down from like 64 to like 51, which is incredible, right? Incredible for their health, longevity. They're literally, their heart is beating many less times a day just to keep them alive. Awesome. It wasn't like that was their goal. But it's just super motivating. Yeah, right? You're like, dude, you know what? This really is working, this whole fitness thing. And you get heaps of little wins like that, right? You might see cholesterol's plummeted since you lost weight. It wasn't like we put you on the cholesterol plan, but it's just tons of little side benefits that when you track data, you'll see. And then the last one, which is a huge one for us, which is it just enhances the coaching process. So if we can see how many steps you do compared to self-reported steps, which is not going to be very accurate, it's really easy. So, when you do 3,000 steps a day less than what we prescribed, that's going to equal, multiple kilos of fat potentially you might gain throughout the year because of that extra activity. Being able to just see your steps is so easy. Yeah, share that with a coach. We keep you accountable. We can avoid those extra kilos of fat. So that's why we love it. Now, what are the best metrics to track? There are some pretty useless metrics and some really important metrics. So we'll start with the really important ones. Heart rate. We love heart rate. Unfortunately, it does take up a lot of data. They always
Wait, are we starting with the useless ones or the useful?
No, the useful ones. So ones we love, heart rate, first up.
Yeah.
Heaps of different ways to do this. You can obviously use it to track fitness, track recovery, track how hard you're going to work out, but it's awesome. I find even particularly a good example for me with running, which is like Jackson, who's our top running coach here. He was like looking at my running data. And first thing he said was like, dude, you just like, your running sucks because like your heart rate's so high for the whole time you run. He's like, only way you're going to get better at running is if you can learn how to like run that that distance and then, with better cadence, and your heart rate's going to be like 30 beats lower. And then you can actually focus on that when you get there. You're like, wow, I actually realized like this is why I don't enjoy running, because I'm like, my heart rate's through the roof the whole time. So those types of things are really cool. Heart rate's a massive one. Obviously the example I gave earlier in terms of like resting heart rate at night. So that's a really cool one. And obviously, pretty much all the different devices now are doing heart rate, which is really good. So heart rate's a good one. Second one we love would be steps, or like some sort of activity level tracker. I know Whoop has like strain kind of based on heart rate and movement. But yeah, steps is amazing just because when it comes to weight loss, it's, food in and activity and calories burned. And food is tough to always measure with a wearable, unfortunately, but steps is a really good proxy for calories burned. So we're going to use steps as a really good way to know how much your activity you're doing during the day. And then we can obviously adjust that to suit your goals. Right, so we're going to say, okay, we're going to increase the activity a little bit on average per day, and we just know reliably we're going to lead to fat loss when we do that. So it'll be very difficult without tracking. Third on the list, I like sleep tracking. Sleep tracking is awesome, mostly because it just provides accountability and motivation to actually get good sleep. There's something awesome about seeing like 5 greens or 100% the night for a really good sleep. And also something really like motivating to maybe drink less alcohol. People drink a lot. They see their score goes from like 100% to like 40%. They're like, you know what, maybe 2 drinks enough, not 6 drinks, right?
Well, it can even plummet that much off 1 or 2 drinks. That's one thing I learned.
Yeah, so maybe it's not 6 nights a week. It's like 1 night a week.
Yeah,
you know, because it's so bad. And obviously now we've like the data is cool because we're actually seeing reliably from these companies now saying like, hey, across 400,000 people, when you do these activities, your sleep gets better by this much. So there is some really cool stuff coming out. Fourth would be all the exercise metrics. So like my Garmin, it'll do like pace. It'll give me an estimate of my VO2 max. It'll be able to tell me my cadence when I'm running. So that's those type of exercise metrics just help us like coach you on running, coach you on different things like that in a better way. Fifth, and this I would say in order of importance, so getting to the letter less important now would be recovery metrics. So like HRV, these types of things that give you like a proxy of how you are recovering. Sometimes I have found them useful for like, hey, it plummets, and then you can often get like a little sickness or respiratory infection after that. So they can be useful in some regards in terms of like how you're recovering and when to pull back on what you're doing. And then the last one would be, it's kind of like a side one, but anything that can like integrate all the metrics into one sort of place where you can get one little view on like a bunch of different things, which just gives you some really good overall. You're like, okay, I can see my weight, I can see my steps, and maybe I can see my sleep. And that when you start to look at these things all together, you start to be like, you know, I have noticed that like I'm stepping less and my sleep's really gone to bad and my body weight is creeping up. We've got a hint on what we need to work on.
It's like a dashboard, like a health dashboard.
Yeah, you start to put these things together, and it's all just wearable data, which is really, really cool. And then maybe you combine that with some non-wearable data like weight. It's really awesome. Yeah. So we're huge fans of them. I'll get into the brands at the very end as a bonus. Now, some things that I think right now, not in the future, but right now, more of a gimmick. So calorie burn. Right now, you can't measure calorie burn on a wearable. You can get an estimate. But it's pretty useless data, to be fair.
That's always overestimate as well.
Yeah, like we're just not going to be like, oh, so your wearable says this is how much you're going to eat tomorrow. Not going to work. Like the only way you can really do that is to see what your body weight is, and then you get an honest idea of your calorie burn versus calorie intake. So that's pretty useless. I typically think like the stress tracking stuff is just not very accurate. Like you probably know better if you're stressed, honestly, than some like wearable telling you how stressed you are that you wear on your wrist. Third one, a bit more controversial, but for a lot of these brands, accuracy in terms of sleep stage. Just came up yesterday. We had a client. He wore his Apple Watch and also his Whoop to bed. And Whoop said, I think the Whoop said he was awake for an hour and a half in the night, and the Apple Watch said it was 4 minutes in the night. But both had the same amount of time they said he was asleep. So you can get what I'm not getting into the brands right now. I'm just gonna say like it's not perfect.
It's a long way off.
Yeah, it's a long way off on the sleep stages. It's getting pretty good, I think, on just how much you actually slept and tracking it.
Yeah.
But telling you like this is deep, and then at this second at 6:04 you went into like this stage of sleep, it's not quite there.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get there in the future. It's why when you go to those sleep studies, they got all the electrodes on your brain and that's on your scalp and stuff.
Well, they have them all over your face because the muscles in your face are paralyzed or they're active based off the stage of sleep you're in, and they're like literally measuring muscular activity in like your cheekbones and your jaw and your eyes and stuff. And like obviously a wearable on your wrist is not going to do that.
Exactly. And like even that is probably like, you know, it's a much better estimate of exactly what's happening in your brain, right? Yeah. So we're not there yet. And I just think like getting hung up on that type of stuff is fairly useless.
Yeah.
So body composition. So body composition we track and it's fantastic. But as a wearable is a joke. Unfortunately, you just can't put a watch on and tell you your body fat or your that's a joke. Yeah. But you showed me if you wanted out there pretend to do that.
Yeah, we had it was like a Apple Watch strap. It's basically like 2 electrodes. You clip it into your Apple Watch where your strap would go, and then it like sits on your skin, and then you sit still and you press it, and it does like a 2-minute scan. First of all, it kept saying you can't read it, and then every time, so error, and then I finally got a reading. It was like 22% body fat.
Yeah,
like,
it's just a joke. Yeah, you're just so far, and it's just you don't even really need body composition more frequently than every 8 weeks or 6 weeks.
Yeah. And by the way, to give you an idea, I've had lots of scans before. I sit at probably around 12, so it's out by 10%.
Yeah,
which is pretty cute.
It just becomes useless data, right? Not helpful in any way. I've seen some that do like mood scores that give you like scores on how your mood is tracking. Useless, right? Like a lot of these things, like a journal would be much more accurate, right? Writing down how you feel. And then last one is blood pressure monitoring. So obviously blood pressure is critical, and we're actually really good at reading that with a proper cuff. But the wrist-based readings, fairly useless. You'd be better off just going to get your blood pressure properly done.
But you probably put blood O2 as well, blood oxygen saturation in there as well.
Yeah, that was literally the one I cut to keep this episode, to get this one episode in time. Not that this stuff's useless. It's just like not there yet. And there's going to be heaps of companies going to try and get you to buy something really expensive for something that's not there yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we're tracking that's useful, a lot of stuff that we're tracking that we just haven't found context and are useful yet. Is probably what I'd sum it up as.
Yeah, so last thing, favorite brands. I think the best thing overall, like entry would be, not entry in price, but entry in just like usefulness would be Apple Watch. So just like does tons of things, integrates awesome if you've got all the Apple stuff, and does heaps of the things, all the important ones we really talked about. Garmin I use, I think it's really good. Probably the best for like if you're getting into like the advanced like running or swimming or any sort of cardio. Really good there, but still does the sleep stuff. Whoop and then Oura. I think Whoop is just like Whoop and Oura like are probably like the true. Just like there's no time here. There's no time. It's not a watch, and it's all about the wearable fitness stuff. I think from what I've seen, Whoop the best for fitness and training. Oura probably the best for like sleep and that type of thing. It's like where they specialize. If you want to go for the cheaper end, like Fitbits are awesome for just like tracking your steps and stuff.
Yeah,
man, the steps are accurate. So you get great steps, and there's some cool ones and some pretty cheap ones, and they're all good. And then the best for heart rate, if you really want to get into the heart rate training, is Polar. And a proper Polar thing around your chest is going to give you really accurate heart rate data.
Yeah.
But to be fair, man, all the other stuff, there's not like all your bases are covered with those brands.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else is it's just good marketing.
Yeah.
Essentially. So there you have it. That's everything you need to know about wearables. I would definitely say get on the wearables trend if you haven't already. I definitely wear my Apple Watch every day. We both wore the Whoop for 2-3 years as well each. So yeah, it's definitely something that we think is valuable and useful, which is why we have most of our clients do it. So there you have it. As always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll speak to you all on the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If you want to get the information in this episode and more, you can download the 30-day health optimization blueprint, which is all the tools and tactics that we use with our clients every day for 30 days. We'll deliver you an email in your inbox. Just head to lockerroomgym.com/blueprint to get the emails. That's lockerroomgym.com/blueprint.